Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour here on Cyber Warrior Studios. As always, I am Cyber Warrior, and with me is, my friend, my partner in crime, and the host of New Battlefields on Eric Bilardo Cyber, Eric Bilardo. Our guest
Hey,
today is Damon Cook. So, real quick before we get started, Eric, how was New Battlefield yesterday, man?
oh, it was amazing. We had a great show with Ali and Pat about cybersecurity, getting into the field, and also how to navigate the complexities of being new in cyber and the social media out there and, being in Twitter and Facebook and all the different cyber media. So it was a great show. If you didn't see it, go catch it. Go to Eric Bilardo Cyber and catch the show.
Awesome, awesome. So, like I said, we have Damon Cook with us today, and we're going to talk about a topic that I know a lot of people want to hear about because it's something that, well, like he said, we had new people on the show yesterday. Well, Ali's a little bit newer, and we had InfoSec Pat on, who's been around for a while. But here on Security Happy Hour, we tend to get a lot of the newer blood, the people that are new to the field, are trying to break in. And I've had some good and bad experiences with recruiters, but I know you're a recruiter. So I was like, let's get him on and actually talk to the man.
Right.
So why don't you give us a little rundown about how you kind of got into the field and then what got you into recruiting?
Sure. So initially, my background was in physical security, and I made the transition to cybersecurity in 2015 or so. But it was one of the toughest things I had to do. And when I was able to break through, just naturally, everybody was asking me, "Hey, what do you recommend? What service do you recommend? Like, can you look at my resume?" And I failed so many times before I finally broke through that I kind of just fell in love with the process of interviewing and preparing and all the anxieties that come around it. So, I started helping people do that. And then as a cybersecurity professional, I just noticed the disconnect between the hiring managers and recruiters. I knew I was going to pass that first round screen every single time. All I had to say is a couple buzzwords, and I just felt like these recruiters weren't really qualified to be interviewing me. So, no matter what the role was, I could not be qualified, and I was going to be meeting with the hiring manager. So, but I did something to address that, and tried to help bring more awareness to everything that's broken in the cybersecurity recruitment process. And I think I've been able to do some of that so far.
Yeah, definitely. And you seem to have one of the things that's missing in a lot of the recruitment, like you said, you have a background in cybersecurity. You did your research, you studied, you learned about the certifications and how to break in. And I think that's very important. And we've talked about it before, just like sales. When you're looking at recruiting in sales, knowing what you're selling, knowing the people you're going to work with and what they do is very important because it helps you to be better at your job.
Right.
Do you find it as a recruiter with a background in cybersecurity that you're better situated and better suited to provide the right candidates with the right roles and the right employers with the right candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely both. I mean, for me, when I was trying to break in, I was doing the fake it till you make it routine, and
Yeah.
that didn't really work for me. So one, I understand when somebody's trying to do that to me, and then when I'm talking to a hiring manager and he's asking for certain skill sets and certain tools, like I've actually used these tools and I've been in that seat for a long time. So I can have the deep dive technical conversations with candidates and do a thorough screening better than I was ever screened as a candidate for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I will say this now. I've never worked with you personally. I have gotten jobs in the past by going through a recruitment agency. And the one I went through, and I'm still friends with my recruiter who now works. He got out of recruiting. He now works a full-time job for another organization. But was Bradley Morris, and they were a cybersecurity veteran specialized recruitment firm.
Right.
So the people that they had actually knew what it was, and it's Mary, it's blue raspberry moonshine and Mountain Dew, just so you're aware. So yeah, it was dealing with people that know what you have and know who you are was very important to me. And hey, to all the new friends in chat, thank you for joining us today. Keith, I don't think I've ever seen you in chat. Thank you. John and all the usuals, thank you. Daniel, thank you. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, I still see your comments. So whether or not you see mine, I don't know, but I definitely see yours. So if you post a comment, we'll see it. So if you have any
So,
questions, post them in chat too.
yeah. So, Damon, one of the things, I always rail against the recruitment out there. We've got a lot of recruiters that really are doing it for the numbers. They're trying to send it out to as many people, hoping to get that. But they don't look at the resumes before they send a job. They do the keywords and they send it out. And I find myself that, I've been in the industry for 32 years. So I find some of these recruiters sending jobs out and saying, "Hey, I saw your resume and you'd be perfect for this." And reply to them, I actually have it saved. It's like, do you realize I've got 32 years experience and you're looking for somebody who's, 2 to 3 years or 2 to 4 years? What made you send it to me? So on the other side, what do you see in the industry of, these types of recruiters and how they kind of mess it up for good people like you that are doing this?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I've never worked at another agency. I've only worked on my own. So, I don't have that pressure at, hitting certain quotas like a lot of recruiters might. So I kind of want to, give them a break on that. And then again, you don't know what you don't know. So um, it kind of all might look technical to certain recruiters. Now, for me, I like to just build deeper relationships. So being more proactive. And when I see a great candidate, I'm just trying to get the dialogue going and asking them, hey, what are you looking for? What kind of role should I bring to you down the line? And, you know, again, just having this experience and being in cybersecurity, um, it really helps me, kind of connect to the candidate and really understand what the client is looking for as well. And for me, I'm going a lot above the job description. I'm never gonna just look at the job description and then try to find a candidate. I got to get that hiring manager on the phone and say, "Hey, what are the top 5 things you're looking for?" I mean, years of experience. If that's a major thing for you, then that's something I got to be looking for. But going beyond the scope of the job description, I think most recruiters don't do that and they don't understand that.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
about the other thing that we always talk about is those managers that are looking for the purple unicorns. Okay. I want one person that is, 10 years experience, but knows red team and blue team and purple team and can do this and has this many certs and this thing. What's your experience on the other side telling these, call it managers, and I call them managers that really kind of don't know what they want, if you will.
Right. You just got to give some pushback. So, when I first started the business, I was trying to do whatever I could to please both sides, but it was really starting to harm our relationship with some candidates. And at the end of the day, candidates are currency. We're helping people change lives here and grow their careers. And when I see a company or a hiring manager that's asking for 4 roles in one and then not coming with the money, now I'm confident enough to push back and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this search because, one, this person doesn't exist. Two, you're gonna have to pay them much more than you're paying them. And three, do you even know what you're looking for? So I think, a lot of recruiters have to push back and have that open dialogue with the hiring managers and kind of set expectations and, frame what they're looking for in the candidate. But, I've had to turn down a lot of engagements because um, clients will really put you in a bad spot,
Oh, yeah.
asking for too much.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
definitely. And
And that,
I think I've seen, some where how do you approach it where, you know, your candidate is asking for more money than what maybe the job's kind of a decent fit and for the area, the location, and it's, everything kind of fits, but the money they're offering, they're not looking for the unicorn. but maybe they're not offering top dollar, right? Like their range might be, say, 110 to 130, and a candidate's like, well, for that role, I want 180. Like, if you know that going in, do you still send those candidates to those jobs, or do you kind of try to work with the candidate and set their expectations a little bit better? Like, hey, for this type of role, it's only worth at most 150. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I think that it's just keeping open lines of communication, right? When you have that big of a gap, then I'm usually going to tell one side or the other, this won't be a good fit. But when you're like you're off by 20 grand and both sides are attracted to each other and it would be a good fit. Well, one is letting the candidate know up front, hey, this is what they're working with, and if there's any wiggle room, then we would try to try to represent both sides. But also letting hiring managers know, like, hey, if this is your guy or your gal, um, this is a candidate-driven market, and this person can go across the street and demand that money, and especially if they're a top-notch talent. So, um, I think a lot of hiring managers who are deeply skilled in cybersecurity themselves, they understand how hard it is to retain
Yeah.
good talent, and they'll make those conversations happen to make the extra money come out of nowhere. So, I think it's just keeping both sides abreast and keeping those lines of communication open, and frame that conversation at the beginning. Hey, what's the most you can pay for the best candidate possible?
Yeah, and one of the things in the industry right now is this whole transparency. And transparency for many reasons, you've got the women, men, difference in pays. You've got all the transparency that people are asking. So there's a big discussion in the HR field right now of should we post jobs with the salary, or should we put it with a range, or should we keep it, hidden? Which causes a lot of anxiety for the candidates. It's like, okay, well, I really need a job, but I don't want to ask for too much, and you end up leaving 30, 40,000 on the table. So what is your view about posting jobs with either hourly ranges or salary ranges or something like that?
One, I love the conversation that's going on about that, and a lot of states are making this, the law to have to post the salary ranges on job descriptions. So um, that's great, and I love to lead with the salary conversation because nobody's leaving another job or going to work somewhere for free. I mean, at the end of the day, we might love what we do, but we want to get paid. So that's the number one factor. No matter if it's remote or they give out free coffee and candy at the end of the day, everybody wants to be paid. Those conversations are not avoidable. And when hiring managers are kind of sketchy and ambiguous about salary ranges, it's signaling to me like, hey, you're not really serious about this search. Again, this is the biggest candidate driven market I ever seen, and you got to be competitive because again, they could go across the street and get that money that they want. Now, I mean, I remember my first job out of college, I was afraid to negotiate a dime. I thought that if I asked for more money, they would take the offer off the table. And I'm here to let people know that's not true. The worst they can do is give you their best offer. So if you're watching this and you're in that offer stage and you're afraid to ask for more money, don't be afraid. Ask for it, and the best they can do is give you the best offer. They won't take the offer off the table for that.
Yeah,
Especially if you're the right candidate.
Exactly.
And we've had a challenge at my day job where I've had that situation. This year is a candidate-driven market, and we've had a lot of resignations. Just we've had a turnover rate of about 30 to 40% for the last year, which is horrible. And it impacts our end client, it impacts us, and impacts me as the CISO. So we look at these candidates, and we're looking at new candidates, and we're seeing a lot of them, actually now searching for that, pay bump. And companies are now getting into this, going from the old model of, look, I can't match a salary. I can only give you a 10, 15% raise to keep you. Meanwhile, these people are getting 30, 40. I got one guy that got a 70% raise to jump over.
Right.
And, you know, companies just can't keep up with that. So that retention piece, what do you tell our viewers about, if you're looking for another job and you've already made a decision to go and your company gives you a counteroffer, what do you say?
Um, well, I'm always, having these conversations with candidates, especially as they're getting to the offer stage. Hey, what is your number one motivation? I mean, is it money? If your company can keep you because they give you a counter offer, then you know, good for you. But a lot of times people are trying to they're looking for growth. And salary isn't always the number one thing. Now, everybody has to get paid, and again, I'm looking for the best for every candidate. So if you got to get your money, you have to get your money. But I think we're seeing a shift in where cybersecurity in most places is viewed as a cost center. I think a lot of people are starting to see it as a revenue driver, right? You can't bring on new clients. You can't work with a bank or the healthcare industry, without having certain cybersecurity protections. And it's really a trust thing. So I think, as we get further down the line and more people are seeing that cybersecurity really drives revenue these days, um, as in my opinion, it's a CISO's job to kind of explain that. And I think we'll see, retention rates start to grow as, companies understand that, you have to open up that pocketbook to security professionals or else they're going somewhere else. It's just like any other market, the bubble is growing and growing here.
Yeah, I call it the insurance. We're not a well, we are a cost center, but we provide insurance,
Right.
To the company, and that's very important. And if we coach it the right way, then we'll get the money to hire the people and retain the people.
Yep.
And so, tell me about those managers that are those hiring managers. It's always interesting for me to get the perspective, about when you're talking to these managers and they're putting together these job descriptions and telling you what they need. And you, as a recruiter that actually knows cybersecurity, what's your interaction with the managers to make sure that they, because the managers are like, well, I want somebody that's going to do this, but they sometimes don't really know what they really want.
Right. I mean, I kind of take the job description and just use it loosely. I don't really like to send that to, especially the best candidates. I don't really like to send that. Again, I'm asking the hiring manager, hey, what are the top 5 things you want from this candidate? What are the expectations in the first 30, 60, 90 days? Like, what's going to make this candidate uh, successful in this role? And, what on a resume would you like to see from this candidate? So, once I get that, that's exactly what I'm kind of presenting to the candidates before I interview them. And I'm telling them exactly, like, if I think they're in the ballpark, I'm going to say, hey, this hiring manager is looking for this, this, and this. Maybe we could tweak your resume to look like that. So I'm not presenting the candidates with every job description, and I'm not presenting the clients with every resume. I think it's kind of a molding that you need to do on both sides to make sure we make a good match.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's very important too, right? It's like we talked about. It's even though it's a candidate market, you're working for both sides.
Right.
Because as a recruiter, you don't get paid unless they hired a candidate you present to them.
Exactly.
And so even though the company is your client, the people are your client too. So, it has to be that happy medium and be able to get that in there. So definitely something very worthwhile and something worth talking about. Now, we were talking about the salary side, and you know, I think the biggest thing for me, and I see it a lot, is people don't leave for money usually. They leave an organization because of the leadership or what have you, right? The culture or whatever's going on.
Right.
And I find that to be true. And I, at least more often than not. Yes, there are some people worked with some people that job hop for money, right?
Right.
Any company that's going to offer more money, they're just going to keep leaving and going.
Right. Yep.
But more often than not, it's something about that organization that they are leaving for,
Right.
whether it's because maybe they haven't been getting raises, or there is no growth, or their boss is a prick, whatever it may be. So for you, have you seen it more often where it's a culture shift so that no matter if that company offers them more money, it's not going to matter? Or have you seen a lot more salary being the reason to leave?
Yeah, I think the what I see most is, people kind of frustrated with the way things are done in their own company when they feel like it's a bureaucracy and they can't really make big impact. Um, when I present a candidate a role where they can make change in the organization, that really holds a lot of precedence over candidates.
Yeah.
Again, money is always a factor, but I mean, I've seen folks make lateral moves all the time just because they could make a bigger impact, and they're just not happy with the way things are done at their current company. So, I mean, I think it's a number of reasons, and everybody's. I mean, I know some folks who say, "Hey, I'm an engineer, and I don't get off of work till 11 o'clock at night. I'm just looking for a better work-life balance." And I've seen people take pay cuts for better work-life balance.
Yeah.
Some people have hybrid schedules, and they want to be completely remote so they can be there for the kids. It's just a different time in the world right now after the pandemic, and candidates have all to say. So again, it's not always money, but it's a lot of times about culture and how are they being treated at their company currently.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree with that
I
completely.
think every time I left the company, it was because of how I was treated. I mean, of course, I'm trying to get more money, but the reason I get my resume out there is because I'm not happy with the culture, the way things are.
Yeah. And that changes. I mean, it might be a great job for 2 years, and then something changes in the company, or a manager changes. We always say that, people don't leave companies, people leave management, and that's been for me, 30 years in the field. That's been kind of a constant for me.
Yep.
And being able to change, to do more, to be better, to change, maybe I'm in a place where it's what we call dead man's shoes. You won't be able to get to that next management level or leadership level because somebody else has to quit before that position's open. So it just depends on the company itself, but that's a constant there. And I've done the lateral moves, and I've done the vertical moves as well for me. But when you look at somebody that's kind of starting their career, and this is something we talk about a lot, is somebody went and got their certs and got all this education and have been doing the hack the box or try hack me or anything like that, done the boot camps. And now they're ready to enter the field, and they come in and they have very little experience.
Right.
Let's just say the 0 to 1. And what do you tell those candidates when they're trying to find a job with, very little? I mean, they've got a great education, but no experience.
So there's two type of candidates, right? And I kind of feel bad for the folks that are just graduating school and with degrees in cybersecurity because these degrees are relatively new, and this is one of the few fields that doesn't really have a true entry level, in my opinion. So I think it's much easier for folks that have a full-time job, they're working somewhere. I will always tell these people to, hey, reach out to the cybersecurity team at your company right now and see what work they need help with. Every cybersecurity team in America is overworked and they have mundane tasks that they don't feel like doing. And that's how I got my first experience. I was doing physical security and I went to the cyber team. It's like, hey, what do you have that you don't feel like doing? And I'll take it on. And that was a real world experience I put on my resume. And, once I started to do that, it started to click for me what those transferable skills were. And, after that, it was just, coming across clear and concise and confident in interviews and until I got my first shot. So, I mean, that's one great way to break in is, again, getting experience at your company that you currently work. And two, I find that a lot of people do not leverage LinkedIn a lot. It's the number one marketing tool for free. Um, I've seen folks market their self into cybersecurity, and it's something you can't be quiet about. If you're promoting yourself and reaching out to folks every single day and being consistent and adding value, posting content, that stuff goes a long way. And you're kind of top of mind when you have opportunities. So it's like, there's tons of people that reach out to me every day who are looking for entry level positions, but when I have one, the first person that comes to mind is the person that's the most visible and who's posting on LinkedIn all the time. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, this person might be a good fit because they know what they're talking about and they're adding value on LinkedIn every day. So those are two recommendations I would make.
Yeah, and we just talked about that yesterday. And one of the big things I said is, especially in cybersecurity, it was always this shadowy organization, like a shadowy group of people. You didn't want to be known as a hacker or working in security or whatever. So you tried to remain anonymous. But in today's day and age, especially if you're just trying to break in and you have no professional experience,
Right.
that's not to say you don't have experience. You don't have professional experience at an organization. You may be working on labs or doing it on your own. If you don't put yourself out there and talk about what you know, whether it's on LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube or a blog or something, if you have no way for anybody to see that you know these things, it makes it very difficult to get that first job in the field. And it's not to say it's impossible. It just makes it that much harder for you because nobody knows who you are. I can't tell you how I got my second job out of the Army because the director at the company already knew me from LinkedIn because I was talking to him.
There you go.
And so when it came to the interview, I didn't even have to talk to him. I just had to get past the first interview. And then they were like, oh, he's good. He's hired. Like, here's his offer.
So we have a question right here.
Okay.
Okay, so as somebody who's done 3 years software engineering, got a first job as a cybersecurity analyst, should I go back and get an undergraduate degree?
If you're asking me, if you want to, if it makes you feel good, I don't really right now require. I'm sorry. Right now, education is not a hard requirement in cybersecurity for what I see. Your cybersecurity analyst experience is the best requirement that you have to offer. Experience trumps certifications and education any day. So now I would leverage my company to get certifications and build my skill set that way. And if your company's paying for it, and then why not? But I wouldn't go into debt trying to get a degree. You're already where most people are trying to be. So.
Yeah, and most job descriptions say degree or experience in lieu of degree.
Right.
So
yeah, definitely. And that's one of the big things is I've told people, I've never been I went and got my degree. I went and got a ton of certifications. Now, back before I really started getting experience, that was huge to get that first job, to get through those HR, requirements or whatever. But now you're half the time they don't even ask about a degree. And the certifications only matter if you're working for a company that maybe works for the DoD and certain certifications are required to do certain jobs.
Right.
When it's a requirement, that's one thing. But if it's not a requirement, they kind of look at it as, okay, so you better be able to talk on this. So if you have a certification, you better be able to explain the knowledge behind that certification.
I feel like certifications kind of benefit the company more than it benefits the candidate. So they can say, hey, we have people with CISSP and CISM and all that, but again, experience trumps all, and education hasn't been a hard requirement in any of the searches I've done.
And again, that goes back to the some companies require it. When you work for consulting firms, some of the organizations that are like DoD or HIPAA or High Trust or whatever, there's certain requirements that to do certain work, you have to have certain certifications.
Sure.
So we have another question.
Yep. So Gigi down here, are hiring managers placing more emphasis on certifications? For example, I am noticing that even with years of experience, certifications are becoming a must.
I think that novice hiring managers, put those certification requirements on there just as a grab all. But I think if you're working for somebody that's smart and wants good work to be done, certifications aren't a requirement. This is kind of what's frustrating me about the industry. You're seeing CISSP on every single description. You're supposed to be working in cybersecurity for 5 years plus to have a CISSP, and I see jobs they're looking for 2 to 3 years experience with CISSP. So I think that they're more often than not HR requirements rather than speak to the hiring manager. I think if you get to that interview stage and you're interviewing with confidence and you can speak to your experience, that it really doesn't matter that much. But I mean, for what I'm seeing, certifications haven't been a hard ask for me to either in these searches I'm doing, but it can't hurt to get. I mean, I say get in a company that's willing to pay for them and then stack it up, on their dime.
Yep,
Yeah,
and like Paul Robbins says right here, this is ridiculous.
Right.
When you see CISSP for a student role or for an intern, it's like, wait, do you even know what a CISSP is?
Right.
So definitely.
yeah, that's a big thing, and we've had that conversation about the CISSP before, and it's very much being repetitive. We are seeing organizations remove it, but
Right.
a lot of the problem is, or at least in my eyes, it's not the hiring managers that are making the job descriptions or the CISOs. It's HR being told, hey, we need a job description for this. And so they go online, they find one, they put, it's cut and paste, and here you go. This is what we're looking for. And the hiring manager doesn't even see it until it gets to them.
Right.
But the problem with that is when the automated system is looking for keywords and those certifications are part of the keywords, then it never makes it through because now you're looking
Yep.
for people that don't exist.
The great big firewall.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's why I think it's so important to work with recruiters that understand and can push back on companies because um, that disconnect is pretty much why I started my firm, just to, be able to right some of these wrongs that's going on. I mean, it's so tough. I mean, I've seen the perfect candidate not get hired because they don't have a CSSP and they couldn't make it through that firewall. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you work with interns at all by chance?
Um, I have not, no.
All right. If you know any companies looking for interns, there's always people in the chat like Shanna B here that are looking for internships as they're going through school just to get their foot in the door somewhere. So if you know of any, either send them my way
Okay.
or post them. Let
Yep.
companies know
Yeah,
that we have people looking.
I do see internships being posted sometimes. They're few and far between, but I'll make sure that I share them every single time, and I'll start sending them your way so your audience could take a look as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
And we've got Rise of Cyber, which is our, minorities in cyber foundation. We've got hundreds of people looking for jobs in there. And, the whole concept of part-time or internship or apprenticeships, that's something that we are trying to bring to bear with, congressional representatives and different people, because we've got that gap, between people who are very well trained, people who need experience, but nobody able to give that experience, from the outside. That gap is what's keeping so many people out of the field.
Exactly, man. There's so many gatekeepers right now, and there's not a shortage of folks trying to break into this field right now.
No.
That's for sure.
And the sad part about it is, and I seen a post the other day, and it said, there's gatekeeping even at the senior levels, because it's like they're posting for a manager or like some leadership role, but to get that role, you have to have leadership experience. So how do you get into this like entry level leadership role when you need experience as a leader? Like, I'm just working my way up. I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. So
Right, right.
seeing those things, it's happening at all levels, and
See,
it's
I
very
mean,
disheartening.
I think maybe the best way to circumvent that is to try to get into roles that are, stepping stone roles into cybersecurity. So, like, there are a bunch of IT help desk roles, around the country that people might not be looking into. And, a year in a seat like that could easily transition to a role as a SOC analyst. Um, for me, it was physical security, corporate security. I was working on, incident response plans, things like that, that was transferable to security operations as well. So I think people got to look, kind of outside the box and try to see where they can make those connections, especially if they're, in the middle of their career.
Definitely. So Jacqueline has a question down here. Outside of recruiting services, does your company offer any other cyber services?
Yeah, I actually just started two things. I've started a consulting piece of the business because, my background leads to that. And, a lot of small businesses been asking for advice. So I'm trying to help small businesses, improve their cybersecurity posture, some cybersecurity awareness training for employees, and I also started a coaching service as well to help folks because just the sheer demand of people asking me how to break in, and I just don't have enough time in the day to sit with everybody. So, um, that's how I'm kind of branching and building a business right now.
That's
Wonderful.
awesome. Yeah, and we got a lot of people here that chiming in. Dot Robin says help desk and cyber awareness roles are definitely a good stepping stones. And look, there's a lot of division in what is required for cybersecurity. I still stand by the fact foundational knowledge can do nothing but help you and help you enter that role, whether that's help desk, or system administration or networking, whatever the case may be. Having that IT background helps. That's not to say it's impossible. We know people that converted over to cybersecurity from, being a barista or working in other industries, but that's because they understood how to transfer those skills over. And if you don't have that knowledge to transfer those skills over, it makes it that much more difficult. And so for you, Damon, how hard has it been to find people that are coming from other industries to get a role in cyber? Because I know there's been a lot out there. How hard has it been to find them their roles?
I think it's very hard, but I think that the people that understand, so cybersecurity is a very vast field. So when somebody just says, "Hey, I want to break into cybersecurity," it's kind of like you're asking that person to do the work for you. But when somebody says, "Hey, I like a role in identity and access management," or "I like a role in GRC," then it's a lot easier to help a person like that. So I think when people have a grasp of exactly where they want to be, it makes it a lot easier rather than trying to do a grab ball and to, just jump in the field wherever they can. So again, it's really about understanding and where those transferable skills are, and how you can highlight them with confidence, and adding that stuff to your resume and interviewing confidently as well.
Yeah, I always say that we've got a really bad problem of PR in the field of cybersecurity. I actually put together a video that you guys can catch on my show, on my channel, called "Cybersecurity is Not a Job," because it is a career field, and it's like you wouldn't say, "I want to get into healthcare." You would say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be an x-ray tech, I want to be a lab worker. So in cybersecurity, we have 50, 60 different job roles in there. So understanding what is your passion, what you want to do is very important. So if you haven't catched that video, after this show, go to the Eric Bellardo Cyber. Catch it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And how we got another question here from Michael as he puts his channel down there. Guess what? Oh man, you have that. I forgot. So Michael wants to know, what do you feel a mid-career shifting person should do when they have a full-time job and time, full job and time, and can't do internships?
That's the kind of person I would say, hey, at your company, reach out to the cybersecurity team and ask them where you can help. Again, I
Yeah,
mean, every cybersecurity team is overworked, so um, I'm sure you can get somebody over there on the cybersecurity team to sit with you and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Maybe you can help us with this. And most times when I advise people to do that, I've worked with a candidate who was in banking, and he was nervous about doing it. He went right to the CISO and said, hey, how can I help? Next thing you know, he's doing a bunch of vulnerability management work, and that's how he got his first break into the field. So, um, I think it's easier for a mid-career person than someone who is coming right out of school that doesn't have professional experience at all.
Definitely.
Definitely. And we got another question. I want to hear from you on this one too, Eric, and I'll say my piece on it. What would make a person more attractive for a GRC role? Damon, you first, as you're the guest, and then we'll make our ways around.
A person that kind of understands cybersecurity from the top down. A person who wasn't looking to be very technical, but understand how cybersecurity impacts business. Also maybe a person with an audit background, and yeah, those are the things I think of right away for GRC.
Yep, definitely. Eric, what about you, man?
What would make them more attractive for a GRC role? They have to look like me. More attractive. No? No? Okay. All right. No, somebody that is attention, that has that attention to detail. When it comes to GRC, you've got governance, risk, and compliance. So when it comes to the governance and the compliance, you're looking at how do we look at the policy, procedures, and standards, and how do we apply those to our current infrastructure? So you have to be very detail oriented when it comes to that. When it comes to risk management part of the house, is being able to understand here's the requirement, here's the risk, here's the vulnerabilities, here's the threats, and how does that impact your business? So being able to again, detailed oriented and seeing where things plug in, that's a very good person for the GRC role. And being able to communicate, that is a very important. The soft skills, I call them the human skills, is how do we communicate outside the cybersecurity environment? Because you're going to be talking to the business people, and they don't want to know CVSS score 10 because this is a CVE over here, a CWE or something like that. They don't care about that. They could care less. What they want to do is, how does this thing that you're asking me to do impact my business? Or how does this vulnerability going to impact my business? How does Log4j is going to impact? Why do I hate to fix this? Because so you have to be able to speak and communicate effectively and be, attention to detailed. So that's what would be a good candidate for the GRC side of the house. Somebody who understands at a high level of technology, but what is it that it impacts my business?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm second what Damon said as well, is that business enablement. So often do we want to say no. And look, as someone who loves security and would love to tell people no all the time, I know it's not possible because businesses have to make money. And there are just certain things that, they have to be able to do. So it's about how do you mitigate the risk without stopping the process. And as GRC, one, you have to love reading because you're gonna love frameworks and policies and regulations and all that other fun jazz. But again, what Eric said, you have to be detail oriented. When you're looking at these frameworks and risk registers and things of that nature, you have to be able to do that. I like GRC people that are at least a little technical, so they can speak to the blue teams about what they need to enable or what have you. But it doesn't have to be hands-on technical. They don't have to be able to sit there and engineer a SIM or program an EDR. They just have to be able to understand what it is and how it works. And again, it's not a necessity. It just makes you that much better at your job.
Yeah.
But again, it's working with frameworks and being able to talk to the business. If you can talk money and risk and understand it's risk reduction, it is a lot of times you're not going to remove the risk, you're reducing it, and that's the big key factor.
And understand that cybersecurity people, a lot of people get into this field and think we're the cyber police. We are not the cyber police. You are not. You don't as a cybersecurity professional, even as a CISO, you don't say, you will not do this. You say, how do we do this in a more secure way? Okay. You don't say, you don't tell a CEO or a COO or a CIO, I will not allow you to do that. Well, unless they're saying, let's open everything up.
Any,
But
any,
you,
any.
yeah,
That's a great role.
which, yeah, been there, done that. But you're trying to communicate to your fellow C level to say, listen, I want this to go. I really believe in this company, but let's do it securely. Let's go ahead and do these things so we can reduce the risk. And you don't end up in the front page of the Washington Post, you know?
Yep. So,
So,
Damon, what is your favorite part about being a recruiter and now consultant since you started that up? I mean, coaching we know has its benefits, but as a consultant and a recruiter, what's your favorite part of those roles?
As a recruiter, the favorite thing is probably like breathing confidence in a person that doesn't think that they can make that next step. It's like, hey, I've been an analyst for a long time, but I don't think I'm ready to be a manager. And sometimes I'm just like, hey, stick your chest out, be more confident, and I think you're right for this role. And it really makes me feel good to see people take that next step, or break into cybersecurity when they thought they couldn't. So, you know, helping people change lives and progress in the career where they thought they couldn't. Um, and from a consultant perspective, it feels good to be looked at as you know, as a person more in an advisory role rather than as an analyst at a company where it's just, you're kind of checking the box and you're getting things done. When you're getting paid as a consultant, they think, hey, you're the expert here. And it's kind of like the doctor thing. You're supposed to kind of diagnose what's wrong and give them the best solution for them. So I like that people look at me more advisory now rather than just kind of putting out fires at someone else.
oh, but do you know the key word of a consultant?
What's that?
Whenever they ask you anything, what is the first thing a good consultant says?
Tell me.
It depends.
That depends.
Always remember that word.
I
Oh, should
hate
we
that
do
phrase.
this? It depends.
I hate that phrase. I heard that when I was going for one of my degrees. Nope. Mm-mm. When I asked one of my instructors, I said, "Hey, if you have an IPS in a way, or if you have a firewall in a way, wouldn't a hacker know it's there?" And she would say, "It depends.
It depends.
Depends on what? Well, how much money the business wants to spend." I said, "So you're telling me if something is blocking your traffic, the hacker's not going to know that there's something there blocking his traffic?" Well, it depends. Hold up. What's it depend on?
Do you have a honeypot?
There's still something stopping you. You're going to know something's there.
You're not going to know if you get stuck in a honeypot.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it does. And it's good. And that's why we're here, is to help people, right? That's one of the big things. As a consultant myself, it is very much, I love the advisory side of things, not being responsible for always fixing everything, but at least giving them the options on how they can reduce the risk or make their platforms better, and getting to work with the different technologies. When you're stuck on the same technology day in, day out, and doing the exact same thing all the time, it makes it very monotonous and boring. But when you get to work with different clients and doing different things and different technologies, you meet different people with different knowledge bases, and get to constantly learn and research and grow. And I think for consultants, honestly, I think we have one of the best jobs out there. I truly do, because our job is to learn and grow and to research. That's part of the job.
I agree. I feel like it's like working at multiple companies at once.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. So if you have any advice for anybody out there in the chat listening on the audio podcast later on when I post this, or anybody that just watches the video later on, what advice would you give someone at all levels? What is some of the best advice you can give anyone either getting into or already in their cybersecurity career?
I will say show your work. I mean, right now you're adding value to the community by, interviewing folks, talking about what you've done in your past and, you know, your technical skills. I mean, I see you constantly posted on LinkedIn. You know, don't be afraid to show people what you're doing and what you got going on. I mean, I know it could feel cumbersome to post and only get 1 or 2 likes, and sometimes you know, that happens to me. And when I'm thinking like, oh, I'm gonna kill him with this post, everybody's gonna really resonate with this. Sometimes it gets 4 likes, and I'm just like, damn. But then at other times I post something and everybody's like, yeah, right on. And it's getting 500 likes, you know. So it's like, you know, show your work. Don't be afraid to let people know what you're doing. And you know, in this journey, I feel like everybody has to, you know, let it be known. Don't be shy to be noticed. And the folks that are not, you know, they're getting all opportunities.
That's right.
Yep. Yep.
And
Eric,
what is the one thing that you love the most? What is it, the one thing that fires you up in the recruiting field?
I mean, making placements. I mean,
Yeah,
I
well,
love when I get that call and say, "Hey, we want to offer Eric a job. Here's the salary we want to offer him." And you know, I love to call the candidate and say,
that
"Hey,
just
you
deserves.
know," I love calling the candidate and saying, "Hey, you know, what you think about that interview?" And just kind of slow down it and say, "Hey, no, they offered you that job," and you know, seeing the look on the candidate's face when they get that
Yeah,
offer, so it's the best feeling.
yeah, definitely.
that's
And I've been there. You know, after that one interview, I got a call from, you know, Bradley Morris, from my recruiter, Jim Irwin, and he was like, "Hey, um, they're offering you a job on Monday." All right, bet I'll take
Yep.
it. I already knew it was going to be a good job. I knew what the role was, so I was like, "All right." They're like, "Yeah, so and so didn't have to talk to you. He said he already knew you from LinkedIn and what you were doing on there." I was like, "I'm out. Let's go." So it is. I can understand how that is a great feeling because even for me, you know, encouraging others to put themselves out there and seeing them land that role because they were willing to do that. You know, whether it's getting a job at, I have a buddy that got a job at SpaceX, a company he always wanted to work for
Huge.
because he put himself out there.
Right.
And, you know, seeing that and knowing we can help and encourage others
okay.
is so
I'm
vital.
shy. I don't want to put myself out there. What do you say?
Uh, what is this saying? Squeaky wheel doesn't get the a squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Yes, squeaky wheel gets the wheel. Yeah, yeah, that's
My,
important.
my last placement, you know, when the guy got the offer, I called the candidate and was like, "What the hell did you say to these people to offend them so bad?" And he was just like, what did I say? What did I say?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just kidding, man. They give you an offer." And that's going.
No,
I
I
don't know.
love it.
Whatever you said, you offended them so much they offered you 20 grand more than you asked for. What?
Yeah, don't say that because they'll go in the first day and go, "You motherfucker!" Whoa, hello, you're out.
Nah, and before we cut off, I do want to say one thing about the salary and transparency and everything that we were talking about earlier. I do think salary should be very important. But even like yourself, Damon, every job I've had, with the exception of the one I have now, I've always been very hesitant to negotiate salary. And it mainly came down to I've actually been turned down for jobs because I asked for too much money. So, you know, I didn't get the offer because I guess some other candidate offered, you know, a lower amount. So that's always frightening. But as I've learned and I've grown through the field, you know, it's one of those things that those are the companies you don't want to work for. If they're not going to come back with a counter offer of like, hey, we can't give you that, but we can give you this,
Right.
then they don't want you. And so I take it as you know your value and you know don't be afraid to sit there, look at what other people making in that exact same role in that exact same state that you're trying to work at, look at what they make.
So I like
And
to kind of soften the blow. So if I have a candidate that says, "Hey, you know, I'm looking for a little bit more," what I would do is I'll go to the hiring manager and say, "Hey, you know, he really appreciates the offer, but he's interviewing for positions at this rate," and that kind of softens the blow. And you know, when there's competition and there's pressure, you know, a lot of clients are, you know, they're quick to match. So um, I think it's all in how you negotiate.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done that at car dealerships, man. I've literally been on the phone with other car dealerships while I'm at a dealership trying to sell my car, and I'm like, hey, they said this much. Hey, they said this much. And then eventually they're like, look, get off the phone so I can sell you a car. So it's the same concept. Again, if you are interviewing at other companies, let companies know that up front, because then they'll want, if you're their number one candidate or even number two, they're gonna give you their best offer,
Yeah,
and they're gonna come in high.
People want to work with winners for sure. And
Yep.
I've gotten a job because I said, hey, I got called by the hiring manager and said, I just wanted to do my due diligence, but I got an offer today. Just wanted to see what you guys had to say. And after that, I mean, I wasn't being interviewed anymore. He was just, kind of selling me on the company, and I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to prove myself at all. And, coming from a place of confidence like that also is a good way to negotiate.
Yeah, and
Yep.
listening to that, because if there's already selling you the company, that means they're trying to sell you on the job, and you need to listen. You need to hear that and say, okay, I got this job, now I can go ahead and negotiate. And, I've been in positions, like I said, over my long career where I feel like, ooh, I can't negotiate because I don't want to lose this job. But once you get into that, that next level, when they're really trying to get you in, that's when you say, hey, listen, I really want this job. I really do want to be here, but I do need to be in this range or something like that. And you give them some leeway to negotiate. That's worked for me in the past. There was another job that I had a job. I didn't want to leave my job. So I did one of those things where I said, I need this much money. And they went, done. And I was like, okay, I'm taking that job. I'm moving.
I've been there, although I turned down the job. I didn't want to work for the company when I found out who the company was for, because it was a recruiter that called me. And a recruiter for that company. It wasn't a recruiting agency. And I said, he came after me, and I said, all right, I think it was like 225. I want 225, which would be a huge, huge, huge pay raise. And they were like, highest we can do is 205 and like a bunch of other benefits. And I was like, nope, 225 or nothing. I hung up the phone. But it's because when I'm with a company I enjoy, I don't like the job hop. I'm not going to leave for money, because you can't always get the same benefits you have, whether that's work-life balance or the work that you're doing. I should have asked for more. But
$1 million.
But whatever the case may be, the grass isn't always greener. And so when somebody's calling me and they're saying, hey, we'll pay this up front, I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing really well right now with my family. I'm able to pay for everything. I'm not, underwater. Nah, I'm not leaving. And that's how I am. Not everybody's that way. Some people will always leave for money. And hey, more power to you. I have loyalty when a company's been loyal to me. And when companies have helped me, that's what I do. But hey, we're coming up on the top of the hours. We got about 2 minutes. I do want to say this. Yesterday's new Battlefields, we had an amazing show on Eric Villardo Cyber. We had Ali and InfoSec Pat on there. And honestly, the videos they put out are phenomenal. Ali's on Twitch every day, just about. So ending with Ali. But you're looking at great content always on these channels. Raisha Cyber is doing amazing things, as always. If you have not linked up with Damon, if you are looking for a job, please link up with this man on LinkedIn. Put yourself out there. Start doing what you need to do if you're looking for a job. If people don't know who you are, you're not going to get the job offers you're expecting.
And Damon, what's your LinkedIn and Twitter?
I'm Demond Cook on LinkedIn, DEMOND and Twitter is CCG Demond.
Okay, and that's going to be linked in the description of this video, so go link up. If you've got any questions for Damon, go ahead and reach out to him. Thank you very much for being here. Cyber Warrior, take it away.
Yep, man. Hey, guys, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. We have another amazing show coming at you next week. So you don't want to miss it. We're going to have 2 guests on, and we're going to be talking about training on a budget and conferences. So it's going to be an amazing show. Look, as always, if you want to support us, whether it's on Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, Cash App, PayPal, whatever, you can go to CyberWarriorStudios.com or just check all the links in the description. They're all there. Otherwise, it's been fantastic having you all here. I can't wait to see you again next week. Be sure to tune in, share this video, and make sure you always come and see myself and Eric on Thursdays and Fridays.
Thanks, guys.